So it did all start when I invented the footless pantyhose. And the reason that I did that was because I, like so many women, was so frustrated that I could not find the right undergarment to wear. And I had these white pants that hung in my closet for 8 months. And every time I went to put them on, I had issues. And our options out there are the underwear, which traditional underwear left panty lines. And they did nothing for my figure. And then the next thing that came out was the thong. And that's totally confusing to me because all of that did was put underwear where we had been trying to get it out of. So that really didn't help me. And I love telling this story to women, by the way. I gave this speech to a room full of men the other day, and after that, they just sort of stared at me. You could have heard a pin drop. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So, and then the only other option I had was I started shopping for body shapers for the first time to wear under these white pants. And the body shapers were miserable. I had never shopped for them before, but they were very thick, really uncomfortable. They binded me in the waist, and they all had a leg band that you could see on the thigh through my slacks or my dress. So there the pants hung unworn, and like so many women, we have those things that we're just not sure what to wear underneath. And I cut the feet out of control top pantyhose one day, threw them on under my white pants. They worked perfectly. They solved my issue. I had no lines. I looked smoother and firmer in my slacks, but they rolled up all night. So I said to myself, you know what? This should exist for women. And I was selling copiers at the time, door to door. That was my job, and I had never taken a business class in college. So there I am. I'd cut the feet out of my pantyhose and said, okay, I've stumbled upon something. And I went on the internet, and I started looking up hosiery mills to find out how I can get this idea made. And ironically, all of the hosiery mills are in North Carolina, and I live in Atlanta, so that wasn't too far. And I started calling them on the phone and saying, I've got this concept, and I was faxing them non-disclosure agreements since they all thought the idea was insane. And I kept calling them, and one thing that struck me was, why aren't I talking to any women? This is very interesting. As a consumer, it had never dawned on me, but men are the ones making all of our undergarments. And it dawned on me that's why they're so uncomfortable. Because the people making them aren't really wearing them all day, and if they are, they're not admitting it. So, I set out to get this made, and I kept calling them, and at the same time, I wanted to protect my idea. So I went to 3 different patent law firms in Atlanta and presented my idea to them. I could not find a female patent attorney in the state of Georgia. I called the Chamber of Commerce, and they told me at the time there was not one. So I went and met with these men who didn't quite get it, or just were kind of trying to understand the footless concept. And I had $5,000 total in my savings. And I went to these law firms, put on my nicest suit, and explained it to them. And they all quoted me between $3,000 and $5,000 to patent the idea. Well, I only had $5,000, so I decided to patent it myself. So I submitted it. At the same time, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to market it. And I knew as a consumer that I was completely confused in the hosiery departments. It's a sea of white and beige and cream, and the same half-naked woman has been on all of our packages for the last 40 years, and you have to read the fine print. So I decided I want my packaging to be bright red, which no one had ever done before in the hosiery space, and I want 3 totally different looking women on the package. So I did animated, illustrated, sort of cartoon women on the package, and I created the packaging on my friend's computer in Atlanta. I had that clear vision for what I wanted it to look like. I knew I didn't have money to advertise, and so if I got the chance to have shelf space, I knew it had to jump out to the women. And then the name Spanx came to me. I had come up with a year worth of terrible names, wrote them on scrap pieces of paper every chance I got. And then Spanx came to me because I knew that Kodak and Coca-Cola are the 2 most recognized names in the world. And I said to myself, well, what do they have in common? And they both have a predominant K sound in them. And I have a bunch of friends that are stand-up comedians, and it's this weird trade secret among comedians that the K sound will make your audience laugh. So for good luck, I decided I wanted my products name to have the K sound in it. And the minute I thought of that, Spanx came to me with a KS, and at the last minute I changed it to an X because I did research that made-up words always do better for products than real words. And I was able to trademark it easier. And I then had my packaging color copy. A prototype was finished after a year of working with the mill in a Ziploc bag, and I cold called Neiman Marcus. I called them on the phone in Atlanta and I said, hey, I've invented a product that's going to change the way your customers wear fashion. It's made a huge difference for me and my wardrobe. Can I come show you? And they laughed. They said, Sarah, there's a buying office and it's in Dallas. So I called them cold on the phone. I talked to the buyer. I explained who I was, and I said, if you're willing to give me 10 minutes of your time, I'll fly to Dallas. And she said, well, Sarah, if you're willing to fly here, I will give you 10 minutes. I flew to Dallas, showed her the idea. Within 5 minutes, she was like, I get it. It's brilliant, which was so exciting for me because I had just spent 2 years coming up against people who really did not think the idea made any sense. In fact, I was thinking about it on the plane. I did not have one person that thought it was a good idea. I was trying to think, was there anyone that thought it was a good idea? And one thing that I did that I always recommend to other entrepreneurs is if you have an idea, I didn't tell anybody specifically what the idea was. I kept it to myself, and I think that that's very, very important to the success of Spanx coming to be, because I was quietly going about it at night and on the weekends, and my friends and family knew I was working on an invention, but they didn't know what. And I meet so many people who say, I had been cutting the feet out of my pantyhose for years, but I told my best friend over lunch and she said, oh, that would never work. Or I told my husband and he said, if it's a great idea, then why hasn't it already happened? And it stops people at that stage before you've already invested enough of your heart into something.